we have a very prominent expert called Mr. Sashi Kumar. He is General Manager Risk Services from Chola Mandalam MS Risk Services based in Chennai. Sashi Kumar is an electrical engineer with special diploma in industrial safety. He also holds a master degree in business management. He has over 20 plus years of experience in field of electrical and electronics. Has wide exposures in field of power plant, petrochemicals, oil and gas refineries, automobile industries, cement plants, chemical plants, construction, energy industry, pharmaceutical industry, and power plant. He is an ICX certified expert in the field of hazardous area. He is one amongst the 2 experts in India which is with the highest qualification EX01, 02, and 04. Conducted numerous studies in field of hazardous areas and guided plants in safe handling and managing of hazardous flame materials in other work areas. A well-known trainer in this field who has carried out numerous training programs both public and in-house, has conducted more than 100 plus programs on various topics related to hazardous area classification and electrical safety. An expert and public speak in the field of electrical safety, he has carried out electrical safety audits, HVAC study for oil and gas installations, pharma, refineries, and fertilizers, power plants, and chemical industries. Sashi Kumar is also a subject matter expert in the field of electricity safety. He has by and large carried out 1,000 audits related to electrical safety. Electrical safety audits, statistic risk assessment, lightning protection design, inspection of equipment in hazardous location are some of the core areas of Sashi Kumar. So with this short introduction, I would like to hand over the forum to Mr. Sashi Kumar.
Thanks for this session. Okay, today's topic on cable selection and wiring systems. I'll take you through various new advances, what are the technologies that are available, plus what are the regulations that they are speaking about on these. Okay, before I just move, a quick 2-3 slides on who we are, and I'm Sashi Kumar, part of Cholamandalam Risk Services, and it's part of the Murugappa Group. MS is a 50-50 joint venture. We are present in these 6 domains: process safety, environment, construction, electrical, logistics, and we are purely a safety consulting organization. Okay, now going to the cable selection and wiring systems, changing scenarios, there are various causes, fire, fatalities. Electrical has always been an unknown baby, and it has always been not creating problems, but actually not handled properly, I have to say. You can see from this graph that there has been a tremendous increase in terms of the white goods that Indians have started consuming or started procuring from the market. White goods, I say, washing machine, refrigerator, air conditioners, TV. Might be some 15-20 years back. I still remember my childhood days where I used to go to my neighbor's house and see a TV. But today you can see that in the statistics, clearly TV comes out first across the year. Every year the television has increased, the yellow ones, and next comes the air conditioner. Our comfort levels as the economy is growing, individual spending, the money available in hand. So plus we all started living with little bit of luxury. So we have started moving to air conditioners, refrigerators, and washing machines today. Okay, people who have bought a flat today could be something different, but if you go to some government offices, the age-old historical buildings are still having the same wiring, and there are more and more cabins formed, and new air conditioners are being installed. People not really taking care of the cables and wires which are over there. This on the right hand side, you have a typical comparison of India versus global or multinationals, where other countries, you can see that we are still a long way to catch up, and it's only going to be short time that India is also going to, the consumption or people who are going to use all these white goods are going to increase day by day. The only thing that I'm trying to reinstate over here is that you are adding electrical loads at your home, offices, everywhere. So one has to be utmost care or have a look at their electrical systems. And there has always been a statistics on various electrical fires and electrical accidents taking place across India. And all those are being attributed to improper sizing, not having a proper cables and terminal, or the electrical infrastructure is not adequately designed or upgraded so as to take care of these new additions in your home or in offices. I don't want to go through this. It's just a clear trend. You do have so many fires happening, and invariably, good or bad, electrical people are blamed for it. And then next day morning, when you see a paper, what you're going to hear is it's because of short circuit. Okay, you can, some might still ask that, okay, Delhi is just only 25,000, but New York has 40,000. The systems over there and over here in India are totally different. In New York or in some part of US, even a small smoke comes, that immediately gets triggered at the nearest fire station and everything gets recorded. But in India, we know what level of recording or what level of data is being shared to the near fire station, or half the times it's not even 1%. This, I'll have to say that this Delhi reflection is hardly very minor percentage when compared to all other developed countries which are automatically triggered. So don't just go simply by the graph over here, but I want to say that there are much more fires which are not really reported to the departments, and that is not getting noticed. This is another graph on the death rate, many people dying, electrocution, fine, all statistics, yes. Now coming to the hazard, we all know electrical hazard, explosion, fire, shock, electrocution, burns. Invariably, all these are attributed to cables and somewhere or the other wires which have malfunctioned. Okay, there could be one area where there could be 50%. If there is an arc flash, it could be a component failure or a terminal lug failure, something. But all these electrical hazard, 80% can be attributed to the cable or the wire which is carrying that, and somebody coming in contact and all those stuff. It's not just the panel equipment. Cable and wires play a major role. That's what I want to reinstate over here. The key reasons you can attribute all this: yes, skilled manpower overload, insulation failures, loose connections, inferior grade. So what is it this all leading to? It is all boiling down to the cable and the wirings and the electrical system that you have installed. So you should be prepared and knowledgeable to cross verify what your electrician has done, at least the basic things. I'm not asking you to design something, but ask the right question to your electrician. Have you done the proper earthing? Is the neutral proper? Is it loose? Is the ground earthing provided, or the earthing provided for the socket, AC, or whatever appliances? You yourself, while working on your mixer grinder or an air conditioner, check the green cable whether the earth connection is proper. See for any that note cables are damaged. You're pulling your bed or a cot or even your hot iron that is used to press your clothes. We find that many a times that is twisted around the iron box, and invariably that actually creates a strain on the cable which is carrying the current, and one fine day it fails. So please take and give due respect to the cables. And these are some of the major causes: old installation, design issues, maintenance issues, and workmanship, which are causing all those things. As we were discussing on the white goods upgradation, as I said, you are upgrading your devices every day in, day out. Gone are the days where one air conditioner was there in your bedroom. There is now dwindled down to your hall, drawing room, 2 bedrooms, study room, everywhere. There are no houses today without air conditioner first. If you are above the middle, I'm sure you have at least 2 air conditioners. And the time that you spend, another thing is in the housing sector, people also have a tendency of having single phase connection, and they keep on swapping, saying that, okay, now geyser is on, switch on the air conditioner, switch off the air conditioner because I'm going to switch on the geyser in my bathroom. And when that is on, likewise, India is yet to grow a lot in terms of cable sizing. There are many, or even say 50 to 70% of the households in India are still on single phase power supply, and their connected loads from the electricity board is still very less, but the appliances are more in their home. And some mistake happening in some part of the house, a geyser, or air conditioner, a mixie, a wet grinder, all running at the same time, that's it. You are going to have some cable failures, or the main fuse, if it is well designed, fuse might go. If it is not there, you don't have many a times MCBs. There are chances where literally cables get heated and one fine day it gets melts. So this is what is happening today in most of in homes and in offices. People do change the air conditioner, but what is the respect given to the MCB and the cable which is being used? Yeah, have anyone really, they would have changed this AC, but I am 100% sure this MCB and this single pole metal clad socket box which is fixed on the wall is not changed, because you need to once again break the wall over here, refix it, plaster it, paint it. That is a much more tedious job, and people really neglect that. Without changing anything over here, they just simply change the air conditioner, or during the construction phase they would have provided a socket which might be having just say 6 amps MCB or 8 amps. They would have just put up an AC or something. So please go give some due respect to all these design aspects. Lightings have changed a lot. More decorative lightings have come, and people say that okay, it is just an LED. It is just an LED. It is going to consume less power. Yes, it is going to consume less power, but you have added more and more lighting in your homes and in your it could be a decorative lighting and all those things. So go back and look whether the circuits are able to take that extra additional load. I agree, LED takes lesser wattages less, but you added now 100 LEDs here and there, so that should not create some trouble in your electrical circuits. Look at the cable sizing. Now coming to the topic on special wiring and requirements. IS 732 classifies clearly based on the category or the circuit that you're going to use. They categorize it into three, which is called category 1, 2, and 3, based on the loads that are connected in the respective circuits. Where a normal load means then they call it as 1. And for telecom, accessories, speakers, and all those things, it is for safety purpose. You classify that circuit as category 2. And for emergency lighting or fire hydrant, fire alarm systems and all those things, those circuits are called as category 3 circuits as per IS 732 standard. So you need to be clear and aware of what type of circuits you have in your home. Whether it is just a normal circuit, means normal loads, your lighting, fans, and all those things. Telecom and accessory speakers fall under the category 2. Emergency lights and fire, surely fire alarm will not be there at your home, but at least in your office premises, somebody overlooking facilities, you will come across these type of circuits, and they will need to be termed as category 3. Okay, what is the significance of these 3 circuits? If you see, they are clearly saying that you should not mix up one category with the other. Please don't put everything together in one conduit and run across. There are specific reasons for that. The category 3 circuit shall not be mixed with any other category in conduit, because what does category 3 do? In the previous slide, I did tell you, category 3 type of circuits are connected to emergency lights, fire alarm networks, and all those stuff. So when you're going to mix up these circuits with any of these, there are chances of misalarm or false alarm which might come up, and there are chances of interferences which can create more trouble. And then under category 1 and 2, they also, as far as possible, please maintain them separately. If you're going to still do them in one conduit or lay adjacent to each other, or for that matter, if there are, it is something like signal cables, data cables, and telecom, it can cause interference to them and create noise in the circuit, and also can cause heating. So these special circuits might have shield and might have proper protection mechanism, and in that case you can still lay it nearby, but as far as possible, for better output, it is always to segregate category 1, 2, and 3 circuits. So this is to prevent damage to critical system in fire alarm and to avoid accidental charging of safe voltages, all those stuff. How is your circuit drawn? Okay, people might say that no sir, I have gone are the days where people are now laying cables and conduits. But if you go to the Western world, people even today lay the cables in conduits. And okay, we here have a practice of laying or directly using the armored cable, clamping them to the walls and using them. So those type of things are being followed. You follow them, but please adhere to these categories so that they don't mix up with them. Next, coming to special wiring again, when it's respect to the fire alarm detections, what type of cables are you using? Just if you're a facility manager, please have a look at that emergency light and the detection systems. I'm not sure how many of you still remember, you check your fire alarm systems, these type of red cable connecting for the stipulated time as specified by standards, and it helps in the vital critical communication which needs to be managed during an emergency. Similarly, when there is a fire, emergency lights, if they are like any normal wiring system, then they also might go down and lights can go off and it can create a panic situation over there. So these emergency lights, fire alarm detections have to be of FR rated, which will withstand the requirements specified by standards. A normal wire which is used for a lighting or anything can be FRLS, which is much more better when compared to a PVC because of the fire property. So FRLS will be the preferred wires which to be used. Okay, the sizing part, of course, it depends upon the type of load that you're connected to the last circuit. If it is going to be an air conditioner or a system or a phone or a light, it depends upon the load that is going to determine the size of the cable. Here, what we're trying to say is what type of cable to be used, whether it is FRLS or PVC. So as far as possible, of course, knowledge levels have improved in the market. People have stopped using PVC or they have upgraded to FRLS. There are old buildings which are still running on PVC, which has certain danger when there is a fire issue. That is another hype in the market. Every day when you turn the paper, you see to it that EV charging, everybody in nook and corner are speaking. And you also might be thinking that, okay, tomorrow I buy a, if not a car, at least a two-wheeler. Where do I charge it? How should I keep the all those stuff? So CEA regulation 2019 has brought up some basic outline on what should be and how you should install them in your home or apartments. And some of you, if you're in a facility, I think there have been some, I recently came across some state which has said that all buildings henceforth should have certain percentage of EV charging. Some state, it recently came up, but it is yet to come up directly in the standards, might be under discussion. Excuse me. So what I meant to say is CEA 2019 has already brought in the standard wherein it says that provisions shall be provided and how it should be provided for EV is also given. Charging socket outlet shall be 800 mm above the ground level, which is given in CEA clearly, and charging cable shall be maximum of 5 meters. Say for example, if this is your charging box from where you are going to receive or charge your two-wheeler or a car, so the length of the cable should not be more than 5 meters. That's just saying. Don't think that, okay, I have my parking bay in some corner, from there to here, I will lay an underground cable, come and connect over here. So please have a look at it. 5 meters, more than 5 meters, it's not allowed. And they shall be placed at 800 mm above the ground level. Normal portable socket mirrors, garage pe hai, so I'll just put into that plug top. No, that's not allowed. They have clearly specified charging cable shall not be energized when cable is unplugged. In a normal home, if you see, a typical example is our cell phone charger. Many a times you and me would have just removed the phone and gone. Okay, so when we have removed the phone, the charger is still fixed in the socket the switch is on, the charger circuit is on, and there is some voltage available at the end point. But in a charging station, they are saying clearly that even if you're going to disconnect the cable from your car or two-wheeler, there should be provision that that fellow who is on the wall socket will disconnect the supply. So charging cable shall not be energized when cable is unplugged from the vehicle, which means it will be sort of an arrangement where you should not be able to let that without charging your two-wheeler or car, that cable should not be always in energized condition. That is what they are trying to say. Cable shall be unlocked below 60 volts, which means should be able to be unlocked. If I need to remove a plug top or the charger wire, it should be able to come out of that socket point only after it has come down in voltage. At same say, I'm practically, let me be honest, I have not seen or used a EV vehicle, but this is what the standard says. There could be someone in this forum who might have a EV two-wheeler or a car. Okay, but I'll ensure that next time I see a Pakka charging station, though I have seen it in one of the Ashok Leyland bus terminal, not for a two-wheeler or a car. Fine. Next is on the protection against overload, reverse power flow, RCCB with 30 milliamps, earth connection monitoring system. All these should be provided at the input and outgoing charging stations. Input could be some dB, and from the dB it comes to a say parking lot area where you have the outgoing station from where it's connecting to the vehicle. Ensure that all those protections are available. It also talks on the cables. Enclosure shall be made of fire retardant material. Fire detection, you need to have some smoke detectors in the garage areas. Cable shall be fire retardant. The materials should be fire retardant material and halogen free. Another area of discussion which often comes up is, okay, one was the EV, second is on the solar power. I have a rooftop solar, and there is always a debate whether I can just either plug it or not. Yes, there are certain regulations and state electrical inspectors who allow, but they have not clearly specified. As for CEA 2015, generating units producing electricity from renewable sources will be required to be inspected by electrical inspector before commissioning. Capacity which needs to be inspected will be issued by the appropriate government, which means they have not clearly said, okay, I have put a 5 kilowatt panel, whether that calls for an inspection or not is unanswered. But the right hand side clip on an approval mechanism which was given to Raj Bhavan, Chennai, wherein the residents over there, governor's residence, installed by CPWD department, they installed a 232 kilowatt panel rooftop PV. They have taken the necessary approval from the electrical inspectorate. This CEA 2021 is still under draft, which talks or gives some details related to solar. Where they are saying proper segregation between the positive and negative terminals needs to be available. Proper shrouding should be provided for the terminals. Yes, there is something which is called as combiner box in solar systems, where the cables from the solar comes and terminates at the combiner box. And at that juncture, combiner boxes should be properly adequately protected from the terminations, and proper shrouding needs to be done. You need to provide acrylic transparent sheets, so between the positive and negative, so that they don't by mistake or even by accidentally, you are not, while removing or doing some maintenance work, they do not come in contact, so as to prevent accidents. There should be a clear space around the solar panel that you have installed on your roof for the people to move around, and the standards calls for minimum of 75 centimeters over there. You should have proper disconnect switch, circuit breakers, both at the DC level, and shall be located in such a manner it is easily accessible. It should not be so that a person has to search for a stool, go bring that stool and then disconnect it. No, it should be easily accessible. And there is also an IS standard which has come up, IS 293, which gives more detail on solar DC cabling. And they also talk about earthing on AC side and DC side. The steel metal frames, all the steel metal frames should be earthed. All those things, protective earthing shall be provided. Inverters, boxes, all those things shall be available. It also talks on such arresters to be installed. Output circuit of combiner box shall be provided with isolation protection, earth fall protections. All this as any normal electrical circuits where you have isolators and the necessary surge protection devices has to go in as part of the protection mechanism to your solar systems that you have installed on your rooftops or at your facility or at any of the location that you are currently working. So next, coming to cable wire sizing. Okay, the sizing of a cable would depend majorly on various other parameters than, okay, I said there is a major derating factors on by nature one, and in terms of the way that you're laying the cable. So if you're going to say 2.5 square mm, say it takes around 14 to 18 amps. Okay, in a smaller size to some extent, okay, as you go on a larger size cables, the current carrying capacity of the cable changes drastically based on the way you have laid the cable. If you have laid it on a cable tray, it is different. If you have laid it underground on a soil, covered with soil, then the capacity is different because there is a little bit of cooling could be there and the percentage of loading. So the sizing will depend upon all these parameters: method of laying the cable and how much current to be carried, permissible maximum temperature it shall withstand, because there are derating factors by the OEMs, the operating voltage, which means cycles, thermal resistivity of soil, load cycles, characteristics of overload, short circuit protection levels, voltage drops from where the source is and where the plant last building is, how long the length of the cable. So all these things play a role while sizing the cable. So please take into all these factors. Don't just simply go only by the chart saying, TK, this is 300 square mm aluminum, it will carry 300 amps, or 200 square mm, 200 amps. This drastically comes down by ways of the way that you lay the cables. So NBC also talks on all those things. Connection needs to be reliable. All these are points that one needs to take care when you are terminating cable. Choose the right cable. The wire must be able to handle the current. Yes, the wire installation must be appropriate. Insulation is another major thing. Sleeves and the cable sheet which is on the top. Connector also varies. A variety of materials are being used for manufacture of cable. The choice of wiring material depends on the wiring environment and need to support the protect the wires. Of course, the aluminum cable, it also depends upon where you want to lay and use these cables. Say if it is a more saline area, then you might need to look for a cable which will be suitable for that. Say for example, acid, you in the next, if you're having a building and next to that building only you are having the acid tanks and transfer pumps and all those things, then please be clear on what type of cables you are using, or ensure that the proper insulation and sleeves are all provided properly. If it is a close by to sea area, you might have too much of sulfation taking place. So aluminum cables and connectors should be handled with special care. Connection made with aluminum wire can loosen in the due course because of oxidation. So use the right lugs and lug paste. All those things plays a major role, so that to ensure that the cables are all having better and proper life. And loose or oxidation connections, this can in turn lead to heating and arcing, and this arcing in turn can lead to a break. And if this is for a neutral or a grounding, then it can be much more devastating. An earthing wire getting cut, then it can be more dangerous. So type of conductors, of course, I'm not going to go more into it. Just be rest assured that for anything lesser than 16 square mm, please do not go for aluminum. Always use copper when the sizings are going down, meaning the lower the size, it is always better to use copper. because of the flexibility is one. Second, aluminum twice or thrice you start bending it, it might break. So copper is more flexible and still carries a little bit more current, and it is safer. NBC also talks on the type of insulation as XLP, PVC, various types of insulations are there. So you need to decide what type of cable would be suitable for your environment. Environment plays a major role in deciding what type of cable you want to use. Okay, internal conductor is one. Apart from that, these outer cable insulation also plays a role on what type of environment you are going to use those cables, which in turn will help in improving the life of the cable. So cable insulation, depending upon the usage, you can select either FR or HR and PVC, halogen free and XLP cables which are there in the market. So you can select the right ones. With respect to power cables, yes, have them separations, have partition walls between one location to the other, and use suitable fire detections and suppression measures so that the cables do not get damaged. This is again, apart from the copper to be used. One more mistake that people do is using the 4-core and 3.5 core. It is always recommended to go with the 4-core cable if you're having a neutral over there, 3-phase with neutral, because the 4th cable, please don't use 3.5 half core, which can unnecessarily create heating and harmonic issues in the circuit. Always go with 4-core, and smaller sizes, please go with less than 16 square mm, use copper. And coming to the size of cables, please don't go anything less than 1.5 copper for your lighting or small fan or anything. Always ensure that, okay, for some communication, electronics, say LAN, there could be some different sizing, but standards have clearly said not to use any cables which are lesser than 1.5 square mm. And for higher sizes, you properly calculate and use the right size. This table also gives you a clarity which is as per NBC, tells you for a lighting circuit, for a power socket, what should be the cable sizing and all those stuff. I think Copper team, Amul and his team would be sharing these slides, would be available. You can use it for ready reference anytime. I'll be sharing these slides to them and you can take it from them, or they'll be putting it in their website where you can have access to it. So go with the right sizing, which NBC also talks on that. Thermal imaging, do the preventive maintenance on the electrical circuit so that you don't have any trouble from them. And one more thing is, do where if don't whenever you have large size, say 50 square mm to 25 square mm, 25 to 16 or 16 to 10, whenever there is a change in the size of the cable, first you are running a 50 square mm cable from say plant room to some dB, okay, and there ensure that you always forget about the dB. You are having some breaker, and in that, not even a breaker, to a bus bar you are terminating it. From there again you are taking a 25, from there you are again taking a 16. Please ensure that wherever there is a change in the cable sizing, you should always have some protection device. So when there is a cable changing from 50 to 25 square mm, don't put a joint just like that. Please have proper tripping devices, and the last load, please ensure that the last tripping device which is connected to the load, the distance is not more than 3 meters. Whenever you're laying cables, HV cables, of course, you all know you lay them in trenches, you bury them under the soil, underground cables, or you might have a tunnel, or you might have proper cable trays. So depending upon the way that you lay the cables, please consider the de-rating factors and all those stuff before taking forward. Okay, there are certain improved ways. Bus trunkings are now catching up in most of the high-rise buildings. Yes, if you're not able to, if you feel that okay, cables are a problem, then copper bus bar trunkings are another ways and means how you can improve the overall power distribution and still be ensuring safety in the high-rise buildings. So you can look in for these type. And next, coming to fire spread is another thing, which is another headache for most of the people. You need to ensure that they are properly proper fire retardant properties are obtained by cable coating or by having conduits or shafts are sealed properly like this, so that they do not carry the fire from one portion of the building or one portion of the panel room to the other area. So all those things please ensure, so as to prevent any fire spread occurring in buildings or in any of your facilities. So electrical distribution cable wiring shall be laid in separate shaft. Yes, don't always have single shaft in which you have cables, you have plumbing, you have all other devices going in the shaft. Shaft shall be sealed at every floor. Yes, if there is a fire at the third floor, it should not spread to second floor or first floor. Please ensure that every proper sealing is done so that fire does not spread. All metallic sections shall be bonded, as we know, electrically, anywhere and everywhere as far as possible. Keep doing as many bonding thing, so that even the smallest leak is effectively taken care, and there are no untoward incidents taking place. These are some photographs. On the left hand side, you see the cable is passing from ground floor to first floor or second floor, and it is not sealed, fire can spread. But on the right hand side, you see that the coating is available, buildings are walls are now plugged properly, so that our fire does not spread from one area to the other. So safety by design, in all ways, proper barriers. You find the shrouds which are available on the panel. When a new panel comes, yes, when you open the door, you will find all these barriers. But these barriers over time are slowly, one screw falls, then next maintenance, second screw is removed, third maintenance, one more screw is removed, fourth maintenance, this barrier itself is removed and kept on the floor. Fifth time, next day morning, housekeeping will come and he'll sweep this and put it in dustbin. So finally, by 3-4 months, whatever new panel is now ripped apart, and every conductor and everything is exposed. And finally, this some lizard is going to go here, or there could be some flashover, loose bolts, and all those stuff. Have proper segregation in your area so that people are not having access to them. Bare conductors should not be accessible to any unskilled laborers. So all these are ways and means how you can protect. Of course, I'm not going to go more. Yes, you have these RCBs, RCDs, have them at their proper selections, 30 milliamps for human protection, have them in the circuit so that they trip and protect. You cannot stand at all places and ensure that everything is fine. Provide these devices, at least these things will take care and protect the shop floor and the people working in that area. So you might need to have an RCCP tester, 30 milliamps, 300 milliamps, 100 milliamps. CEA regulations also gives clarity on where to use what. 30 milliamps is for human contact. Wherever you feel that unskilled labor is going to go and touch that equipment, please provide 30 milliamps. 100 milliamps can be used for lighting circuit, 300 for high mass light fittings or places where people will not be having easy access. So please follow these norms. Do a proper preventive maintenance, thermal imaging, all those stuff. And don't always think that, okay, we have asked the guys to do, but they find ways and means of doing and getting the things done. If you see on the left hand side, you asked him to terminate it. He knows how to terminate. End of the day, supply is there. Yes, he's going to put a test lamp or a plug and check whether supply is available. But see the quality of termination that he has. The middle image, some of you over here might be following practices related to in electrical something called as lockout and tag out. The tag is available, the light is also on, which means the quality of isolation is a big question mark over here. I don't know how safely the electrician can work on the equipment. Yes, isolated, put on a tag saying lockout has been done, but that indicator is still glowing over the panel. Facility management people, please have your look on the cables and the battery racks that you're using in your facilities or in offices. Please do not have more 2 different batteries, makes, age, capacities, everything in the same bank. It is the first bomb which is going to explode in your facility. These are much more dangerous. Replacing one dead battery and not matching the age or not having a proper manufacturing, say one manufacturer, one is Rocket, one is Panasonic, one is USA batteries. So trying to mix up the batteries also is dangerous, highly dangerous. Each fellow has their own characteristic curves of charging discharging cycle. All images taken from sites, construction site. If you go, if this fellow is tripping, they have provided a support so that nothing trips. So all these things you can observe at field. Please take care. Please have a open eye, go around, question everything that you see over there, why it has been done that way, and ensure that the environment is safe for everyone to work over there. And end of the day, you are going to be held responsible for any untoward instance which is going to happen in that area if you are an electrical person. So use the right methodology and work safe and be safe.